Minwei Chi Nan. Chapter 166. Land of Idyllic Beauty, plus Grand General Lei. Kailan Summer Mountain Villa was not suitable for ordinary people to stay in during winter. It was chilly everywhere. Qin Mian and Lei Tie were not afraid of the cold, while Yuan and Manman had heating spiritual tools with them. Therefore, it was fine for them to stay there for a few days. When Yuan and Manman found out that the name of the mountain villa was the combination of their names, they were so happy that they explored the whole place with Dian Bai and Jin Simo Pi. Dian Bai and Jin Simo Pi especially liked it here. It felt like they were back in the mountains. Dian Bai. Jin Simo Pi, called Lei Tie. Dian Bai and Jin Simo Pi ran back quickly. Look after Yuan and Manman. Dian Bai nodded and returned to Yuan and Manman's side with Jin Simo Pi. Lei Tie grabbed Qin Mian's hand and went in another direction. Where are we going? Qin Mian didn't understand. He guessed that Lei Tie couldn't wait to do something. His heart beat faster. In recent months, both of them had been busy with the summer villa, so they hadn't been intimate with each other for some time. It was not hard for him to admit that he missed Lei Tie so very much. Just thinking about it, his whole body felt hot and excited. Lei Tie didn't speak. His steps were still very steady, but he was obviously eager. Qin Mian faced Lei Tie and put his arms around the man's waist. After he kissed Lei Tie's lips, he looked at him with a smile on his face. Lei Tie hugged him and flew up. He flew through the branches that stretched out, flew higher and higher, and after a few breaths, they both appeared in a treehouse. When did you do this? Qin Mian was so pleasantly surprised. He looked around, not forgetting to pull the man's hand. The treehouse was about 2 zhang long, 2 zhang wide and 1 zhang high. It was very spacious. The roof, wall, and floor were made of green bamboo with the thickness of an adult's arm. There were doors and windows. It was a marvelous creation blending in with the nature, green, sparkling and clean. If one lived here in summer, it must be especially cool. In the middle of the floor was a thick rug about the size of a bed. Qin Mian gave a deep meaningful look at Lei Tie. He came to the door, stretched out his head, and looked down. The treehouse was nearly 8 chi away from the ground. He could see Yuan and Manman in the mountain villa, happily running around with Jin Simo Pi and Dian Bai. As he watched them, Lei Tie held him from behind and said with a hoarse voice thick with suggestive undertone, "Wife, miss you." As though Qin Mian fell into a hot stove, he turned around and pushed down Lei Tie hard. The two men rolled onto the rug and soon got entangled. Yuan and Manman had been playing for a long time. When they didn't see Qin Mian and Lei Tie all of a sudden, they didn't panic. They came to cool summer residence they were going to stay in tonight. After eating some snacks in their bags, they felt a little sleepy. They took off their shoes, climbed the bed to lie down, and even covered themselves with the quilt consciously. Dian Bai and Jin Simo Pi lay down beside the bed, closed their eyes and guarded the children. The noise in the treehouse took a long time to cease. At the end of the vigorous activity, Qin Mian felt as if something within his body was deeply invigorated. He was full of energy and strength. He turned his head to look at Lei Tie. Just like him, the man looked pleased and satiated from inside to outside. He couldn't help but pounce on the man and kissed his lips. His body unconsciously rubbed against his man. Lei Tie let out a low roar in his throat. As if he couldn't endure it anymore, he rolled Qin Mian on the rug and pressed on him again. Wife. Qin Mian buried his head in Lei Tie's chest with his limbs all wrapped around the man tightly, a silent protest. I really can't come for the third time. Lei Tie didn't struggle while being bound by his wife. Only his head could move. He lowered his head and pecked a few times on his wife's soft hair. Wife, this is our own special place. Qin Mian opened his eyes, raised his head and teased, can't even mention to the boys. LIAN looked steadily at him. All right. Mian chuckled and put his arms around LIAN's neck. Even if LIAN asked him to tell his two sons about the existence of this place, he would be ashamed. After a little while, they dressed up and went back to the ground. Yuan and Manman had woken up. As soon as they saw their two fathers, they ran over. Yuan looked up and down at his odd eye and loud eye. His odd eye was smiling, which was not odd, but his odd eye's eyes seemed to be smiling too, which made him quite curious. Odd eye, loud eye, where have you been? Cough. Mian looked away with a guilty conscience and said, just walking around to see if there is anything that needs to be modified. Manman crossed his arms and meaningfully uttered, oh. He and Gurgr were not stupid. Their other little friends lived with a father and a mother. He and Gurgr had two dads and no mother. Nevertheless, their odd eye was 10 times more powerful than the father of all their little friends, and their loud eye was 100 times more powerful than the mother of all their other friends. If Mian and LIAN knew that the two little boys were thinking like this, Mian would be so smug that he would laugh with a swagger, because the two little boys obviously put LIAN in the position of a mother, while LIAN, who wouldn't speak up, could only be depressed in his heart. LIAN effortlessly picked up Yuan and Manman at the same time. Wife, go back to the house. Odd eye, Xiao Luobo's family is already preparing New Year's goods. When will our family do it? Sitting on LIAN's shoulder, Manman asked Mian. Mian said, tomorrow. Your loud eye and I will take you to town tomorrow. As time went by, the new year had come again. Lei Xiongji, the fifth branch family of the Leis, and the others still wouldn't come back this year. Winter gave place to spring. Yuan and Manman had reached 5 years old. In the middle of the second month, Mian and LIAN began to lead the whole village to transform Green Mountain Village. Mian also had to lend money to some farmers who had poor financial conditions and could not afford too many flowers and fruit trees. As long as the farmer's character was all right, Mian would lend money and write down a note of debt. Having less time for Yuan and Manman, the couple sent the boys to the Imperial Examination class in Green Mountain Village. The two boys became the youngest students in the Imperial Examination class. In the beginning, Teacher Chen was reluctant. He felt that the two boys were too young and worried that they would not be well disciplined. Mian did not argue with him but suggested that he allow Yuan and Manman to attend at least 2 days of classes. 2 days later, Mian wanted to take Yuan and Manman away, but Teacher Chen was not happy again. This was because he discovered that Yuan and Manman were not only obedient but also very smart. In this way, Yuan and Manman, like other children in the village, went to school after breakfast, carried a small school bag, went home for lunch, went to school again after an hour's rest, and finished class at the beginning of the hour of U. /Note: Hour of U is 5 to 7 p.m. Although Mian and LIAN were very busy, they still spent an hour every day tutoring the boys with their studies and teaching them some modern knowledge. By the beginning of the 3rd month, all the flowers and trees in Green Mountain Village had been planted. Mian quietly sprinkled diluted spiritual spring water to ensure the survival of all flowers and fruit trees. Then, he hired 4 people who knew how to take care of flowers and fruit trees, and Grandpa Fang to teach the villagers how to take care of the flowers and fruit trees. Late in the same month, all kinds of flower trees and fruit trees bloomed one after another in pink, white, yellow, purple, beautiful flowers, splendid in many postures. Green Mountain Village suddenly changed from an ordinary girl to a descending celestial maiden. The villagers walked in the brocade of luxuriant flowers and smelled all kinds of fragrance that were so refreshing their waists and backs were straighter than before. From a distance, Green Mountain Village looked even more beautiful. The houses with different heights and continuous undulations were hidden in the red flowers and green willows, like a fairyland on earth. The changes of Green Mountain Village attracted the villagers of other villages. They were all envious. Almost every day, people came to see the flowers. They could look but absolutely not allowed to pick it. Otherwise, the dogs in the village would chase them out for a few li away before they gave up. In the 6th month, the peaches ripened and tasted sweet. The village chief and the villagers were completely relieved. Apart from a few of the matured fruits was transported to the town to sell, the rest were transported to other places. Mian did not teach the villagers to make jam or canned fruit. In this respect, he had selfish motives. He could only manage his own family and could not supervise all the villagers. If a villager sold inferior jam and canned fruit as goods, it would lead to big trouble. It was not that the villages have not figured out how to make fruit jam, but because the brand of Glimmer of Paradise was so powerful, they couldn't open up the market at all. The jam they made was mostly sold to local people to be eaten fresh and couldn't be sold to other places as far as Glimmer of Paradise's jam was. However, because the fruits tasted very sweet, the villagers still made a lot of money by selling fruits alone, which was much better than planting only grains. Besides that, the fruits of Green Mountain Village were sold to the villagers within the village at a cheaper price compared to when it was being sold outside of the village. For instance, outsiders would have to pay 3 wen per jin of peaches and 4 wen per jin of pears, while the neighbors within the villages would only have to pay 1 wen for 1 jin of these fruits. In this way, the villagers could eat fruits for cheap. The children of the village would eat such nutritious fresh fruits which made them significantly fairer, cuter, and healthier compared to the children in other villages. Flowers were also sold to other places at different prices with different varieties. A pot of wild chrysanthemum was only 10 wen, but a pot of crown mold double petal white camellia could be sold for 200 wen. The life of the villagers in Green Mountain Village got better and better, and the relationship between the villagers became even more harmonious. The village chief was also proven right. In the past, daughters from other villages didn't want to marry into Green Mountain Village, but now they all wanted to. So much so that even the girls' parents secretly picked certain young men in Green Mountain Village and then hired the matchmaker to mediate. The local young men were happy. Even if they looked rough, as long as they were hard-working, there were still girls who liked them. The local girls were not willing to marry out of the village. They preferred to marry fellow villagers. The parents also hoped that their daughters could live a good life. They were no longer unwilling to marry their daughters to fellow villagers as before. Not only that, but some people from other villages who shared relatives and friends with the local villagers even secretly gave gifts to village chief Luo, hoping that they could move to Green Mountain Village, but the village chief didn't agree. Teacher Chen was an exception though. He planned to move his family to Green Mountain Village, where he was warmly welcomed by the villagers. In the 7th month, when the weather began to get hot, LIAN Summer Mountain Villa officially opened. Almost all of the guests came to LIAN Summer Mountain Villa for their trust in Double Siang House's strength. When they came, they found out that the accommodation, meals, drinks, pastries, and leisure activities in the mountain villa were the most special experiences that other summer mountain villa had never had. In just 5 days, a total of 14 small courtyards in the 6 structures were all full. The arrival of these guests had also led to the economic development of Green Mountain Village. For example, when some guests wanted to go to some family's flower garden to pick some flowers, or to some family's orchard to enjoy the fun of picking fruits by themselves, or to some family's pond to pick lotus seeds or dig lotus roots, they had to pay not only for the flowers, fruits, and lotus roots but also the chance to do the activities themselves. Rich people would pay for something they enjoy. How would the people who could even afford to live in the expensive LIAN Summer Mountain Villa be reluctant to spend money on flowers and fruits? In this way, those who spent money were as happy as those who earned money. Even when the hot summer was over, people still came to LIAN Summer Mountain Villa one after another, not to avoid the summer heat but to enjoy the beautiful rural scenery. Amidst the bustle and joy, another year had passed. In the 3rd month, spring had come and the flowers were in bloom. The village chief called on the villagers to plant what Mian called made green with trees on both sides of the road out of the village, making the road into Green Mountain Village even more beautiful. Mian's whole family, who had made important contributions to the development of Green Mountain Village, was exempted from all collective works. It was the Green Mountain Village School's holiday once every 7 days. Yuan and Manman wanted to see the trees, so Qin Mian and Lei Tie took them, Dian Bai and Jin Simo P, to the mountain behind the village to see the villagers planting trees. On the mountain, iron hooves clanked. A squadron of dignified armored soldiers galloped on their fast horses and stopped in front of the villagers, who were buzzing with activity. The villagers stopped working and looked curiously at them. The village chief put down the spade in his hand and walked over quickly. "Excuse me, Xiangji Sui." Lei Xiangji didn't pay attention to the village chief. His complicated gaze fell on Lei Tie, who was standing side by side with Qin Mian and watching Yuan and Manman play. Lei Tie looked over without a thought and slightly frowned. The leader of the armored soldiers was about 40 years old with a fair face and looked somewhat arrogant. He looked around, and upon seeing Lei Tie, he visibly became happy and urged his horse to go over. He turned quickly upon his saddle and dismounted, bent with hands cupped in respect to Lei Tie, and politely yet flatteringly said, "This humble one pays respect to Grand General Lei. Hope that Grand General Lei have been well since we last met." End of Volume 3. Minwei Qi Nan. Volume 4, Living in Deep Waters. Chapter 167. 2 Imperial Edicts. This humble one pays respect to Grand General Lei. Hope that Grand General Lei have been well since we last met. The villagers were stunned and looked at Lei Tie with eyes filled with doubts. Their first reaction was, could they have come for the wrong person? However, seeing that Lei Xiangji didn't refute the middle-aged man's words, everyone understood right there that Lei Tie was truly a grand general. At once, their eyes were full of shock and awe. Yuan and Manman looked over curiously. Without batting an eyelid, Qin Mian walked over and took them aside. He hid behind the crowd and looked at Lei Tie. His eyes glazed with worry and vigilance. Why does the eunuch serving next to the emperor suddenly come to Green Mountain Village to see Tie? He turned to Lei Xiangji with an inquiring look, and Lei Xiangji slightly nodded to him. He breathed a sigh of relief. It's all right. As long as it was not anything bad. The village chief's lips trembled and lost his voice for a moment. The news that Lei Tie was, to everyone's surprise, a grand general was too shocking. Lei Tie turned away from the eunuch's salute and lightly said, "Li Gonggong doesn't need to be courteous. I'm not a grand general anymore." Yuan looked at Qin Mian with his eyes shining and asked in a low voice, "Ah Dai, is Lao Dai a grand general?" Manman's eyes were also shining. Qin Mian nodded. When the 2 little boys learned that their Lao Dai was once a grand general, they would certainly idolize him even more. The 2 little boys' eyes shone even brighter. Nonetheless, they were very clever. Knowing that things were not simple, they stood quietly beside Qin Mian and did not speak again. "You are, of course, still a grand general." Eunuch Li took out a pair of bright yellow scrolls from his sleeve pocket and held them out respectfully and carefully with both hands. "Grand General Lei, His Majesty asked this humble one to pass these imperial edicts." Where had all the villagers ever seen this kind of posture? When they heard the words His Majesty, they were so scared they kneeled on the ground. Qin Mian's mind wandered a little as he thought, when one accepts the imperial edict, one had to set up an incense table. This kneeling is useless. Lei Tie nodded his head without expression and gestured for them to follow him. Eunuch Li was not surprised by his cold reaction, as if he had been used to it. Without a change of expression, he did not mount his horse and simply followed with the imperial edicts in his hands. Lei Xiangji and the soldiers who followed them all dismounted and walked behind the 2 of them. Lei Tie gave a meaningful glance at Qin Mian. Qin Mian made a gesture to Yuan and Manman on the sly. He picked them up with both hands, mingled with the villagers and slipped away when others were not paying attention. The villagers also stopped working and followed. The village chief was a little worried. He quietly moved closer to Lei Xiangji and asked in a low voice, "Xiangji Sui, what's happening? It's not anything bad, is it? Lei Xiongji whispered, village chief doesn't have to worry. It's a good thing. The village chief took a long breath, his heart was still beating fast. Their Green Mountain village was amazing. They had Lei Xiongji, an official in the capital, Qin Mian, a powerful businessman and now a great general. Following Lei Tie down the mountain, Eunuch Li had a panoramic view of the beautiful village and was filled with admiration. When he entered the village, he looked at the roadside flowers and fruit trees and smelled the fragrance of flowers. His expression of admiration showed not only in words but also on his facial expression. Grand General Lei lives in such a beautiful place. This humble one is really envious. He wasn't embarrassed at all for not getting any response from Lei Tie as he looked around, left and right. Lei Xiongji hadn't been back to his hometown for 3 years. He was so shocked and couldn't see enough with his pair of eyes. He had a hunch that the changes in Green Mountain Village were greatly related to his eldest sister-in-law. After entering leisurely farmhouse, Eunuch Li and the soldiers unconsciously slowed down and looked around, incessantly amazed. Lei Tie invited Eunuch Li into the house and ordered the servants to set up an incense burner table. Eunuch Li stood in front of the incense burner table and unfolded the imperial edict. Headed by Lei Tie, everyone kneeled. Eunuch Li read in a sharp voice, "By the grace of the Son of Heaven, Lei Tianren, the former general of the West Order who had bravely fought and led the imperial army like a battle god, is hereby appointed and conferred the title of the Defender Grand General of the state to be the Commander-in-Chief of the front, middle and rear army as so decreed by the Imperial Majesty himself." Lei Tie's heart sank. He had no choice but to accept the imperial edict with both hands. This subject accepts this imperial edict with gratitude. Long live His Majesty, long may he reign. After Lei Tie put the imperial edict on the incense table, Eunuch Li said with a smile, "Grand General Lei, there is another imperial edict." Lei Tie's eyes flashed with a cold light that died right away. He slightly nodded and knelt again without a sound. Eunuch Li read aloud, "By the grace of the Son of Heaven, Lei Tianren, Defender Grand General of the state who achieved brilliant merit through outstanding military service to the country is hereby conferred the title of State Defender Duke, bestowed a State Defender Duke estate and granted an iron token with a monetary reward of 10,000 taels to express His Majesty's benevolence. These are as decreed by His Imperial Majesty himself." When Qin Mian, who was eavesdropping on the second floor, heard the second imperial edict, his eyes narrowed, showing a sharp cold light. His mind was incessantly twirling. According to his understanding of the Great Xia dynasty, Defender Grand General of the state was a second-rank military post and a State Defender Duke was a first-rank noble. Not only that, the title of State Defender Duke could be inherited. As long as the future generations did not make a grave mistake, they would continue to inherit this noble title. This imperial favor for Atie was too sudden and way too much that it made him doubt whether there was any conspiracy afoot. Lei Tie was also having the same thoughts as Qin Mian. However, imperial orders were absolute and thus, he could not refuse. Once again, he received the edict with gratitude. Eunuch Li congratulated him with a smile, "State Defender Duke Lei, the State Defender Duke estate has been put in order appropriately. His Majesty ordered this humble one to escort the State Defender Duke and his family to the capital as soon as possible." After that, without waiting for Lei Tie to speak, he said in a casual tone, "This one heard that State Defender Duke Lei does not only have a good wife but also a pair of lovely young masters. Please accept my congratulations. Are they not around?" As soon as these words came out, Lei Tie understood that the emperor had a basic understanding of his affairs. He could perceive that Eunuch Li was deliberately giving him hints. He nodded to Eunuch Li in acceptance of his grace. Eunuch Li smiled at him, his disposition clear. The State Defender Duke is a newly conferred noble in the capital. Making friends with him could only be good. "Uncle Fu, go to the entrance and see if the little master and the little young masters are back." "Yes, eldest master." As soon as Qin Mian, who was upstairs, heard LIAN's words, he picked up Yuan and Manman, flew out of the floor-to-ceiling window, landed outside the wall and walked towards the gate of their home. LIAN invited eunuch Li to take a seat. Li Gong, there are many trivial matters at home that will take some time to arrange. Did His Majesty ever mention a deadline? Eunuch Li said with a smile, His Majesty only said that the sooner the better. State Defender Duke Lei doesn't have to worry too much. After all, to settle down in the capital, one would better arrange everything properly. LIAN said, then Li Gong would be troubled to wait for some time. Does Li Gong prefer to stay in Double Xiang House or the Summer Mountain Villa? Eunuch Li answered, we'll just stay in the Kailan Summer Mountain Villa. This humble one truly likes the scenery of this mountain village. As they spoke, Qin Mian led Yuan and Manman into the room and paid respect to Eunuch Li with his hands cupped in respect. Eunuch Li attentively looked Qin Mian up and down and secretly thought, it's no wonder. Then, he sized up Yuan and Manman and immediately was very fond of them. He took out a pair of jade pendants from his sleeve and gave it to Yuan and Manman as a meeting gift. Qin Mian understood that for the time being, they had no choice but to settle down in the capital and these social changes were inevitable. He nodded to Yuan and Manman. Yuan and Manman softly thanked Eunuch Li and accepted the jade pendants. Eunuch Li secretly praised the upbringing of the two children. Qin Mian ordered Uncle Fu to take Eunuch Li and his entourage to Kailan Summer Mountain Villa. Eunuch Li let Lei Xiangji stayed with good consideration. After Eunuch Li and his entourage left, Qin Mian and LIAN sent the villagers away and asked Aunt Fu to take Yuan and Manman out. Only then did they talk to Lei Xiangji. Lei Xiangji congratulated LIAN with a smile, Dagur, congratulations. Today, it's the first time I learned that eldest brother goes by another name of Lei Tianren. Qin Mian said, Lei Tianren was a name given to your Dagur by his master. We'll talk about it later. Wu Lang, let us know first, what actually happened. Why would His Majesty suddenly reinstate you Dagur's official position and even conferred him the title of State Defender Duke? Lei Xiangji gave a conflicted smile as he was also bewildered, I'm also confused about this matter. Half a month ago, I suddenly received the Emperor's order, commanding me to show Eunuch Li the way back to running water town of Zhaoyang County to pass a decree to General Lei Tianren. At that time, I didn't think that Lei Tianren was Dagur. I thought that Grand General Lei happened to live in seclusion near running water town. In fact, I didn't know that Dagur was Lei Tianren until Eunuch Li paid respect to him on the mountain path. His mood at this time was no less complicated than Qin Mian and LIAN. Worried that he might bore some thoughts, Qin Mian explained, your Dagur's affairs during those years had been very complicated. In a word, he had many unhappy memories of being an official that he didn't want to mention it again. I hope Wu Lang won't mind. Lei Xiangji hastily said, eldest sister-in-law underestimated me. I can understand. Dagur certainly has his reasons. Knowing that Qin Mian and LIAN must have a lot to talk about, he got up and took his leave. Dagur and eldest sister-in-law, I'll go visit Sangur and Sigur first. LIAN nodded. After Lei Xiangji left, Qin Mian hugged LIAN's waist and gave him a comforting kiss on the lips. Tie, don't think too much. We'll figure it out when we reach the capital. It may not be impossible to resign once again. LIAN gently shook his head. He lifted Qin Mian, embraced him into his arms and faintly said, wife, as long as you and the children are there, I don't care about other things. I've long been indifferent to what happened in the past. Now, it won't make any difference for me whether we live in the capital or not. I just worry that you and the children might not adapt to it. The waters in the capital is very deep. Qin Mian could feel that LIAN wasn't just saying that to appease him, so he let go of his worries. I didn't consider moving to the capital before. I thought that we would have to wait until Yuan and Manman take the imperial examination to enter the capital again. Now, I think it's fine to move to the capital. We've been in Green Mountain Village for so many years, so it's good to go out for a change of scenery. Yuan and Manman are growing bigger and bigger. It's time they go out and see the world. As for the complexity of the capital, I believe that with my mind and your ability, our family will be able to stay together. Lei Tie inexplicably felt that Qin Mian's body gave off a scent of excitement for a challenge. The corners of his lips gently perked up. As long as you don't feel aggrieved if we have to go to the capital, then so be it. I'll protect you and the children. End chapter. Minwei Qi Nan. Chapter 168. Into the capital. Thus, everything was decided. The emperor ordered eunuch Li to escort Lei Tie and his family back to the capital, apparently to prevent Lei Tie from leaving his family in Green Mountain Village. Thinking of this, Qin Mian and Lei Tie didn't have much time to delay. They asked the servants to call the people who were in charge of their several workshops and shops. This hometown was the headquarters of Qin Mian and Lei Tie. They had no intention of giving it up. The bakery, restaurant, and double siang house were each still handed over to the current person in charge. In order to encourage the three persons in charge to work harder, Qin Mian and Lei Tie had decided after a discussion to award them 10% of the profits of the stores they were responsible for. Leisurely Farmhouse and Kailan Summer Mountain Villa would be taken care of by Uncle Chuan. Uncle Chuan was to be the steward of their old home and would be responsible for everything. Lei Qin He was in charge of the winery, Lei Qin Shan was in charge of the vermicelli workshop and Lei Qin Shu was in charge of the fermented tofu workshop. Uncle Quan's monthly salary was raised to 5 taels of silver, while Lei Qin He, Lei Qin Shan, and Lei Qin Shu's monthly salary were raised to 1 tael of silver. For the rest of the servants, the monthly salary of the third class was increased by 50 wen, that of the second class by 100 wen, and that of the first class by 150 wen. Qin Mian and Lei Tie wanted to bring Uncle Fu, Aunt Fu, Lei Qin Lei's wife, and the 9 armed servants to the capital. After all, they also needed confidants in the capital. The rest of the servants would stay in Green Mountain Village. It took Qin Mian and Lei Tie 5 days to settle everything in their home. When it was time to leave, the whole family was very reluctant. Leisurely Farmhouse was built by Qin Mian and Lei Tie, where every place had their footprints and was full of their memories. Yuan and Manman were also reluctant to leave. The home in the capital would not be as full of fruit trees and flowers as their home in Green Mountain Village, let alone have their unique playground. The family of 4 took a last stroll in Leisurely Farmhouse. Lei Tie entrusted Lei Xiongji, Lei Xiongli, and the village chief to take care of their properties and family that they were leaving behind. The family got on the carriage and set off for the capital. They brought a lot of special local products, so there were 7 carriages in total. Almost all the people in the village came out to see them off. They watched the carriages go up the mountain along the village road and disappear after climbing over the mountain slope. It was impossible for Jin Simo P and Dian Bai to like and get used to living in the capital. Qin Mian, Yuan, and Manman could only bear the pain of leaving them behind very reluctantly. Dian Bai and Jin Simo P also seemed to know that they would be separated from the 4 masters for a long time. They looked very sullen. They sent the family all the way to the town and had to be driven back by Qin Mian. Leaning on the window while looking at Dian Bai and Jin Simo P's figures gradually disappeared, Yuan and Manman started to cry out, almost out of breath as tears rolled down their faces. Jin Simo P Dian Bai. Qin Mian and Lei Tie couldn't coax them for a long time. The 2 little boys cried until they got tired and fell asleep. The next day after their departure, Lei Xiongji came to Qin Mian and Lei Tie's carriage to inform them of the situation in the capital, especially the different factions in the officialdom. However, Lei Xiongji was only a 6th rank official now. He wasn't qualified to attend the imperial court and thus, only have second-hand knowledge. The day before entering the capital, eunuch Li spurred his horse next to their carriage and chatted with Qin Mian and Lei Tie. Only then did Qin Mian and Lei Tie had a general understanding of the current situation of the imperial court. After entering the capital, with so many new things there were, Yuan and Manman had temporarily pressed their yearning for Dian Bai and Jin Simo Pi to the bottom of their hearts. Eunuch Li came to their carriage and said, "State Commander Duke Lei, the State Commander Duke's estate is in Chang'an Street ahead of us. Almost all the people living in this street are noble families and high-ranking ministers. It's not far from the Imperial Palace. It's convenient for the State Commander Duke to attend Imperial Court session in the future. This humble one will first send everyone back to the estate to freshen up. Then this humble one will escort your honored selves to the Imperial Palace for an audience with His Majesty." "Thank you, Li Gonggong." Lei Tie nodded to him as a signal. "The State Commander Duke is welcome." Chang'an Street was clean and spacious. It could accommodate 4 to 5 carriages. The carriage continued to move and stopped only after half a shishan passed. Lei Tie got off the carriage first and carried Yuan and Manman down. Qin Mian got off the carriage last. In front of the compound of connecting courtyards, above the Vermilion Gate hung an impressive plaque of State Commander Duke Estate. The gate was open wide. A short bearded man ran out from inside with a smile and bowed to Lei Tie and Qin Mian. "This servant is called Chen Fu and was sent by Commandery Prince Mu to take care of the State Defender Duke Estate. This servant greets the State Defender Duke and the Lady of the State Defender Duke." Qin Mian's countenance betrayed nothing. He had been called wife and sister-in-law for so many years. It was no big deal to be addressed as a lady. Forgo the formalities. "Who is Commandery Prince Mu?" Qin Mian thought of Mu Chen. The imperial household's surname is Chen. If Commandery Prince Mu is indeed Mu Chen, then Mu Chen's real name may be Chen Mufeng. /Note, Commandery Prince, Jun Wang, is a high nobility title which was either conferred to the highest noble of a vassal state or granted to the legitimate sons of imperial princes. Qin Wang, except for imperial heir apparent, it's basically a prince of the second degree /. "Sure enough, neither servile nor overbearing," Chen Fu said, responding to the Lady of the State Defender Duke. "Our Commandery Prince's respected name is Chen Mufeng." The Commandery Prince said that when the State Defender Duke and the Lady of the State Defender Duke have settled down, he will invite the both of you to a meal and make amends. Commandery Prince Mu has been thoughtful. Lei Tie said, "My wife and I will pay him a visit some other day." "Yes, this servant will relay it to the Commandery Prince." Eunuch Li was still waiting, so they didn't say much. Chen Fu brought them in. There were many servants in the yard, who knew where they came from. Some were sweeping the floor, some were pruning sprigs, some were watering flowers. Chen Fu led them to the washroom and left. The family of 4 took a bath and changed into fresh clothes. Lei Tie had been reinstated to an official post. The official uniform was the principal uniform one had to wear to attend an audience with the emperor. He wore the official uniform of the Defender Grand General of the state. His black military uniform made him look even taller and straighter, looking majestic with a compelling aura. Qin Mian wore a black short unlined garment, a light blue wide belt around his waist, a vest of the same color on the outside, a pair of black slim-fit trousers on the bottom, and a pair of light tan ankle boots on his feet. His long hair was set free. He looked bright and brave in the manner of a delicate beauty. The two men measured each other. Unconsciously, they became somehow completely absorbed in seeing each other. Yuan and Manman's hair had already reached the shoulders. The top of their heads was arranged in a sheep's horn braid. They each wore a lavender robe and a belt with an exquisite embroidered pouch on the left side and a white jade ornament on the right side, such a good pair of golden boys with graceful bearing. They looked at Lei Tie with eyes filled in admiration as a child would to their parent. Eunuch Li coughed softly and the 4 of them came back to their senses. Eunuch Li crammed them with the basic protocol to observe when having an audience with the emperor. What he didn't know was that Lei Tie had already taught Qin Mian, Yuan, and Manman at home. Never judge Lei Tie, who usually didn't talk much. He was actually very careful. He quietly protected the people he cared about in his own way. The family of four got into the carriage. The carriage drove steadily toward the palace and stopped at the main entrance of the palace, which was the south gate's entrance. There were 3 gateways in the south gate, 1 main gate and 2 side gates. The family of four got out of the carriage, followed Eunuch Li through the east side gate, walked along the winding corridor of the palace for a long time, and stopped at the brilliant palace where the emperor resided. Eunuch Li said with a smile, "State Defender Duke and Lady of the State Defender Duke, after walking for such a long time, the 2 little young masters must be tired. The 4 of you can go there to have a rest for a while. This humble one will go and report to His Majesty first." Inwardly, Qin Mian and Lei Tie knew that Eunuch Li must report to the emperor what he had learned along the way first. "Please go ahead, Li Gonggong." Lei Tie put Yuan and Manman down. Qin Mian fixed their attires. He had been worried that they would be scared, but he saw them standing upright with clear and bright eyes. They only appeared curious and not in the least scared, proving themselves to be his and Lei Tie's sons. Lei Tie held Qin Mian's hand and looked at him with concern. Qin Mian returned with a smile to express that he was fine. ******. Eunuch Li walked carefully into the palace hall. Emperor Zaiwei was sitting behind the imperial table, reading over the memorial by the throne. "This servant pays respect to His Majesty." Emperor Zaiwei glanced at him, then quickly wrote a few words before he put down the brush, folded the memorial, and put it on the pile to the right. "You've returned quite early. Rise." "Thanking Your Majesty." Emperor Zaiwei asked, "What about State Defender Duke?" Without concealing anything, Eunuch Li narrated everything from the moment he met Lei Tie. Emperor Zaiwei asked with interest, "Is Green Mountain Village, leisurely farmhouse, and Kailan Summer Mountain Villa really like a fairyland on Earth? If so, isn't it better than Zhen's Imperial Palace?" One might well say that this last sentence was a criticism, but Eunuch Li did not panic. He had been serving Emperor Zaiwei for so many years, he knew when to tell lies and when to tell the truth. "It can't be compared with Your Majesty's Imperial Palace. Green Mountain Village, leisurely farmhouse, and Kailan Summer Mountain Villa are not of noble status. However, their charms lie in nature and novelty. One can pick flowers in every 3 steps and fruits in every 5 steps. On top of that, there is a wide expanse of verdant wheat fields. Spring is evident everywhere." It was truly interesting. Emperor Zaiwei didn't get angry. He nodded slightly and said in a gentle tone, "Listening to your description, Zhen is interested to go and have a look." Eunuch Li smilingly said, "Reporting to Your Majesty, the youngest Lei Daran hadn't been to his hometown for 3 years. He was very emotional when he went back to Green Mountain Village this time. While we were on our way back, this servant heard that he was inspired to make a painting called Land of Peach Blossoms. It's now half finished." Emperor Zaiwei nodded with satisfaction. "When he finished, have him present this painting." "As His Majesty commands." Emperor Zaiwei again said, "Send them in. Zhen wants to see what kind of person had conquered my Grand General." The palace hall was deep and quiet. The order from the emperor was passed down to the palace maids up to the palace attendant standing at the gate of Brilliant Palace, who then called out, announcing the presence of State Defender Duke Lei and his family. Lei Tie and Qin Mian walked into the hall carrying Yuan and Manman. Their eyes drooped as they walked forward at an appropriate speed. Sitting in the dragon throne, Emperor Zaiwei looked at Lei Tie as they approached. When his eyes swept over the scar on Lei Tie's face, a trace of displeasure flew away from his eyes. Then, his eyes fell on the young man beside Lei Tie. His sharp eyes flashed, looking pensive. Lei Tie, who was dressed in his official uniform, looked extensively mighty and sternly fierce. However, Qin Mian, who was supposedly an ordinary rural man, stood tall beside him and was not at all affected by this kind of grandeur in the slightest. Moreover, his attire also vaguely conformed well with Lei Tie. From a high point of view, their figures were harmonious and connected at a deep level with each other. It could be deduced that this young man was not so simple. It was no wonder that he caught the eyes of this cold-hearted general. Emperor Xiaohuai's eyes were also attracted to the two little boys. He looked at their facial features carefully. He inadvertently gave the two pairs of big curious eyes a small smile and got two lovely smiles in return. The smile on his lips then turned deeper. Qin Mian's family stopped 5 or 6 steps away from the dais and kowtowed together. This humble subject greets your majesty. Long live your majesty, long may you reign. This commoner greets your majesty. Long live your majesty, long may you reign. Rise. Many thanks, your majesty. Emperor Xiaohuai said, Li Fuxiao, give seats to the state defender duke and his family. Yes, your majesty. If you can't do anything to prevent it, you might as well sit back and enjoy it. Qin Mian and Lei Tie sat down in the armchairs brought by the attendants. Yuan and Manman were given brocade stools. Upon seeing their fathers sat down, the two little boys also calmly sat down. Emperor Xiaohuai's eyes flashed with a ghost of a smile, and he looked at Lei Tie. Hope that state defender duke is well? Replying while sitting is fine. Lei Tie cupped his hands and said, living in the mountains and plains for a long time, this one is carefree and contented. How is your majesty? Emperor Xiaohuai was glad for his show of concern. He didn't try to figure out whether the previous sentence had a different meaning. Guilt shone in his eyes, your face. Zhen will order the Imperial Institute of Medicine to prescribe some good medicine for you. Lei Tie said, thanking your majesty for your grace, but this humble subject would like to keep this scar. Oh! Emperor Xiaohuai smiled faintly, too profound to be understood, why is that? Lei Tie lightly said, replying to your majesty, this scar is a deterrent to many troubles. Emperor Xiaohuai gave him a meaningful look and then looked at Qin Mian. It's been said that young Master Qin has good medical skills. The younger brother of State Defender Duke was cured by young Master Qin during the poisoning accident. Young Master Qin. There was a haze floating in Lei Tie's eyes. End chapter. Minwei Qinan. Chapter 169. Noble Lady of the First Rank. Qin Mian got up to reply, answering to your majesty, that is correct. Lei Tie also stood up and stood side by side with Qin Mian. Yuan and Manman followed to stand up. Emperor Xiaohuai gazed at Lei Tie for a moment with cryptic eyes as he renewed Qin Mian's importance in Lei Tie's heart. He said in a light voice, all can remain sitting while replying. There's no need to be nervous. We're just talking casually like ordinary people. Qin Mian and the others sat down again. Emperor Xiaohuai took a sip of tea and said slowly, Zhen always feels a little tired recently. Zhen wonders if young Master Qin can diagnose Zhen. Eunuch Li's facial expression changed as he whispered, Your Majesty. When one does a diagnose, one has to get close to the body. It's too risky for your majesty to allow people that we aren't familiar with to approach near. Emperor Xiaohuai glanced at him fiercely. Eunuch Li bowed his head in reverence and no longer spoke. Lei Tie acted as if he was unaware of it and said to Qin Mian, Wife, I've been away from His Majesty for many years, I'm worried about His Majesty's imperial body. Why don't you take His Majesty's pulse by hanging a thread? When the two looked at each other, they instinctively understood each other's intentions. Sometimes, an attack was the best defense. Since they've entered the palace, they had stepped into the deep water of the capital. Only by properly showing some advantages could they better protect their family. Blindly hiding their strength would only make people think that they were weak and could be deceived. Young Master Qin can even take a pulse by hanging a thread. Emperor Xiaohuai was surprised, his dim eyes were full of doubt. Zhen heard that many years ago, there were doctors with excellent skills who could do this. But now, almost no one in Zhen's Imperial Institute of Medicine has such skill. Qin Mian didn't argue. His respectful smile exuded a confident and happy look. It's better if your majesty calls an ill attendant to let this commoner have a try. Emperor Ziyue cast a glance at Eunuch Li. Eunuch Li quickly called a junior eunuch. Emperor Ziyue asked him to write down what kind of sickness symptoms he was experiencing on the paper. He noticed that Yuan and Manman feel tired and listless. When he remembered that they had been on the road for more than 10 days, he felt some pity on them. He told Eunuch Li to prepare some snacks, fruits, and drinks that children like to eat. Fruit juices and other drinks had already spread to the capital, but the fruit's taste might not be as good as leisurely farmhouses. Cautiously, without making any noise, 2 attendants brought over a small round table and put it in front of Yuan and Manman. The palace maids put snacks, fruits, and juices on the table. Yuan and Manman stood up, cupped their hands and showed a pure smile to Emperor Ziyue, thanking Uncle Emperor. Qin Mian was secretly shocked and looked at Emperor Ziyue, making sure that he was not being noticed. LIAN's aura turned slightly cold. Emperor Ziyue was taken aback for a while. Then he laughed and waved his hand to them. Being addressed by Yuan and Manman as such, Zhen suddenly felt that Zhen was a teenager. Yuan and Manman, if you like to eat them, Zhen will ask the Imperial Kitchen to make more for you to take home. Many thanks, Uncle Emperor. Yuan and Manman thanked him again and each picked a piece of pastry to give to Qin Mian and Lei Tie. Qin Mian gave a little smile and said in a soft voice, "You two eat, your Lao Dai and I are not hungry." With that, Yuan and Manman ate by themselves. Emperor Ziyue saw that all 4 of them did not doubt if there was something wrong with the pastry. The smile in his eyes became a little more real. When the junior eunuch finished writing, Eunuch Li tied a piece of thread to his wrist and handed the thread to Qin Mian. Emperor Ziyue and Eunuch Li then attentively stared at Qin Mian. Qin Mian straightened the thread and put his fingers on it. There was no worry on Lei Tie's face while Yuan and Manman ate the snacks with ease. Qin Mian got immersed in making the diagnose and said with confidence, "Reporting to your majesty, this junior eunuch should have caught the chill the night before yesterday. At this time, his body is weak, his mind is bleak, the inside of his mouth is tasteless, and he has slight nausea. He only needs to drink 2 doses of medicine to recover completely." Emperor Ziyue took a close look at the paper on the desk and almost all of it was on point. He praised, "Good. It seems that those old beans in the Imperial Institute of Medicine should have a proper review of themselves." He didn't ask Qin Mian to feel his pulse again. An emperor would not easily let people he did not trust know his physical condition. Qin Mian naturally would not mention lest he invite suspicions to himself. Emperor Ziyue put down his concern for Qin Mian and beckoned Yuan and Manman. "Yuan and Manman, come to Uncle Emperor." When Yuan and Manman got the nod of their Lao Dai's approval, so they ran up the steps and came to the dragon chair. Emperor Ziyue held one boy in each arm and asked them with a smile how old they were, whether they could read, what they usually liked to do, and what they liked to eat. Seeing that they were not afraid of him as others were, he was happy and liked them even more. Yuan and Manman were pure, simple, and honest, but also inherently intelligent. Occasionally, they came out with a few words of a child daring to do great mischief, which forced Emperor Ziyue to burst into hearty laughter. Emperor Ziyue had a weighing scale in his heart. Qin Mian and Lei Tie should not know what questions he wanted to ask in advance, so they couldn't have taught Yuan and Manman how to answer in advance. Yuan and Manman's answers could only come from their consciences, so he believed they were pure and lovable. Qin Mian and Lei Tie became supporting roles instead. Eunuch Li had his head drooped while his eyes were filled with surprise. It was the first time that he saw the emperor interacted this well with children. Once again, he affirmed in his heart that the State Defender Duke was truly worthy of his reputation as a new noble in the capital. After 3/4 of Shishan later, Emperor Ziyue asked Qin Mian's group of people to kneel in peace. /Note: kneel in peace is a euphemism for when the emperor is asking his audience to leave. State Defender Duke and Lady of the State Defender Duke, when you have time, do bring Yuan and Manman into the palace to see Zhen. Are Yuan and Manman willing? Yuan did not speak, only nodded. Manman grinningly said, Gurgr and I will also bring snacks for Uncle Emperor. Qin Mian inwardly sweated. Ha ha ha. All right. Emperor Xiaowai laughed out loud. You all kneel in peace. State Defender Duke has just returned to the capital, Zhen will give you 3 days to rest. Many thanks, Your Majesty. This subject asks for leave to withdraw. Eunuch Li arranged a junior eunuch to send off Qin Mian's family to the palace's entrance. In the carriage, Qin Mian looked at Yuan and Manman with worry. As the saying went, to be in the emperor's company was tantamount to living with a tiger. Yet, he couldn't directly ask Yuan and Manman whether they liked the emperor or not, let alone ask them to be on guard against the emperor. Once the two children showed their guarded stance in front of Emperor Xiaowai, something that was not supposed to happen would happen. Lei Tie took his hand and appeased him, Wife, don't worry. Yuan and Manman can feel who is honestly good to them. They are smarter than we know. Qin Mian thought of the words one's conscience and laughed with relief. He and Lei Tie had always been forward and positive in their education of Yuan and Manman. He should believe in Yuan and Manman no matter what. The two children were not likely to say offensive words. It was better to let nature take its course. Even if something happened, he and Lei Tie could hold up a sky for their two boys. I understand. Lei Tie gently kissed his eyebrows. His indifferent voice contained reassuring power, you and the children can do whatever you all feel happy about. Leave the rest to me. All right. Qin Mian raised a natural and unrestrained smile. We want to live in the capital as happy and comfortable as when we were in Green Mountain Village. As the couple talked, the two little boys had fallen asleep with the swaying of the carriage. Who knew when? The carriage stopped at the entrance of the State Defender Duke estate. Uncle Fu and Chen Fu came out together. Although Chen Fu only came to help temporarily, he was as considerate as a real steward of the estate, which was clearly because of his master's instruction. Qin Mian noted Chen Mufeng's friendship in his heart. Chen Fu led them to the main courtyard of the inner chambers. Lei Tie put the soundly asleep Yuan and Manman on the bed and was pulled by Qin Mian to have Chen Fu and Aunt Fu show them around their new home. The State Defender Duke estate was located in the north and faced the south, covering an area of about 100 mu. The whole compound had pavilions, terraces and open halls, richly ornamented buildings in ancient styles. After entering from the front gate was the front courtyard. The council office, reception room, storehouse, and stable were all in the front courtyard. There were a small garden and a large-scale training ground in the yard. The opposite buildings on the left and right of the front gate were the gatekeeper's residence and the servant's residence. Passing through the training ground was a festooned gate. The festooned gate was the only passage between the inner chambers and the outer courtyard. After the festooned gate was the inner chambers. The winding corridors on both sides surrounded 3 courtyards, the main courtyard, the east courtyard, and the west courtyard. The main courtyard covered the largest area, with a garden and a small training ground. It was unknown if Emperor Xiaowai gave this house to Lei Tie because of his military officer status. For the Qin Mian family with a relatively small population, this kind of house was just the right size. The main courtyard was Qin Mian and Lei Tie's residence. After Yuan and Manman had grown up, they could live in the east courtyard and the west courtyard respectively. The most praiseworthy thing was that the house was fully furnished. Qin Mian hardly needed to worry about anything. If he felt something was inadequate, he would just change it. In the back of the inner chambers, there was a small courtyard with a row of rear-covered buildings. The open space in the courtyard was not small. As Qin Mian strolled around with Lei Tie, he also excitedly talked to him about his plan of redesigning the State Defender Duke estate. Concerning Qin Mian's plan to open up a vegetable plot in the third courtyard that they've entered, Lei Tie's expression didn't change as he nodded in agreement and chimed in while Chen Fu's footing stumbled. Just as they were about to ask Chen Fu what was the matter with those servants, the manservant came to report that an imperial edict has arrived. The small group of people quickly went back to the main hall of the front courtyard. Chen Fu told the servants to quickly set up the incense altar. Qin Mian mulled to himself, what the hell is Emperor Zaiwai doing? In a span of a single month, he already gave them 3 imperial edicts. In certain parts of the capital, he feared that some storms might have been brewing. Noticing Lei Tie's thoughtful expression, he asked, "Ah Tie, do you know what's going on?" Lei Tie asked, "Wife, do you know that the mother or wife of the 1st to 5th rank officials will be granted an imperial mandate if there is no unforeseen event?" Qin Mian's steps paused and his mouth twitched. "Do you mean that this imperial edict is to confer upon me a noble lady of the 1st rank? If so, he must reassess Emperor Zaiwai." Lei Tie nodded. There was no time for them to talk more. The messenger of the imperial edict had already come in. Indeed, it was the imperial edict to confer upon Qin Mian a noble lady of the 1st rank. Along with the imperial edict, there was a red mandated order document in the shape of a scroll with jade shafts and a set of robes for a noble lady of the 1st rank and some personal adornment. End chapter.